Welcome to worship, good family. It's church family. It's good to have you with us this morning and on this day of worship. And it's an honor to be leading you in this service of worship. We have many things we're doing this morning, so we'll get right to them. If you don't have your name tag on, it'd be great if you had it because people want to know who you are. We're friendly people, and along that same line, if you haven't taken your new directory picture yet, take another picture of your family, have someone else take a picture, and get it to Sherry, and we'll get that directory updated. I finally got mine in. Well, I've got it ready. I haven't given it to her, but I'm behind on that also. Those of you that are online, it's good to have you with us today in worship. And there's a Connect card that you can click on there and register yourself for worship. And there's a Connect card in your bulletin that you can use if you're here. We'll pick those up during the offering. Today we start a new sermon series called With Jesus in the School of Relationships. I'll be covering several key relational principles that Jesus taught and lived that we need as a community, that you need in your lives, and I need in my life. So let's settle back, think about those who love us and those whom we love as we prepare to worship God, listening to the prelude this morning.
Call to worship is from Micah 6. People of God, with what shall we come before the Holy One and bow ourselves before the Lord on high?
God has shown us what is good. What does the Holy One require of us but to do justice and to love kindness and to walk humbly with our God? We have an opportunity to bring our joys and our concerns to God this morning. So I'll start with, I don't see them here, so I'll start with Boers. Boers, Amy is getting closer to having a plan. And it's been a long, difficult journey to get a plan, but she's getting closer to having a plan to treat her brain tumor. So hold them in prayer. And we had a death this week. Gloria Watson passed away on Monday, I think it was, Tuesday morning. And Gloria was a longtime member and supporter of this church. If you read her obituary, she has lots and lots of interesting stories to tell. And Jenny has been here with her. Glad to have you in worship this morning. What other concerns do we have today? Or joys? Somebody has a birthday on Tuesday? Patty has a birthday? Does it end in a zero? No, it doesn't end in a zero. Okay. But we give thanks for you and all that you do. Your work over at St. Anthony's Care Center makes a lot of difference to people. So we're grateful for all that you do and all that God has given you. And I'll just offer a word of thanksgiving today. We went up to Lamar's yesterday to 2 funerals for professors that we had when we were at Westmar. And it just made us think the influence that people have had on us, and I encourage you to think about the influence that people have had on you, and maybe the influences you have on people coming after you. Okay, Michelle's son has been sick this week, and we want to lift up Michelle's family in Bettendorf. If there's nothing else, would you allow me to lead you in the pastoral prayer? God of mystery and love. Like Jesus' first followers, just 2 weeks from the startling events of Holy Week, we struggle to make sense of all that has transpired. The death on the cross shatters not only our preconceptions of what it means to proclaim that Jesus is the Anointed One, but also our foundational beliefs about you. How could a God of love let that happen? Was that part of the plan? Even more perplexing, what does it mean that you yourself died upon that cross? We reflect on the Easter miracle and the stories that have been handed down to us about empty tombs and empty crosses, and we begin to realize that the story is about us. It's about your continuing journey, seeking relationship with us, drawing us back to yourself. And we know that Easter happened for us, and we give thanks and rejoice for that. We long to believe that it was for us, because sometimes we don't believe that. We're haunted with doubts. Lord, we believe. Help our unbelief. Looking back on these events that changed the world, help us to see your love revealed in surprising ways. Help us to recognize your love in the freedom of will you grant your children. Help us to recognize your love in the self-emptying humility of Jesus. Help us to recognize your love in the trauma of the cross, a suffering you share with all who suffer. Lord, help us to recognize your love in the risen Christ, in the resurrection that transcends all of our words and all of our ideas. Help us to be as loving as you have been to us. Where there is pain and suffering, may we respond in love. Where there is loneliness and grief, may we respond in love. Where there is sickness and death, may we respond in love. Where there is hunger and homelessness, may we respond in love. Where there is inequality and oppression, may we respond in love. Not only this, O Lord, but give us courage to speak your love, to articulate what you mean in our lives to those who so much need you in their lives. Even now, Lord, we boldly claim the power of prayer to you. We boldly claim your power of healing as we remember those in need of healing today. Remember especially the Boer family and the Watson family as they grieve Gloria's death. Others who are waiting for tests or test results or waiting for appointments. Others we name in our hearts at this time. Lord, we lift all of this up to you, using the words that Jesus taught us. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Scripture this morning is from Matthew 18, verses 10 through 14. Take care that you do not despise one of these little ones, for I tell you, in heaven their angels continually see the face of my Father in heaven. What do you think? If a shepherd has 100 sheep, and one of them has gone astray, does he not leave the 99 on the mountains and go in search of the one that went astray? And if he finds it, truly I tell you, he rejoices over it more than over the 99 that never went astray. So is it not the will of your Father in heaven that one of these little ones should be lost?
This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Thank you, Jim. There was a man who was very lonely, so he decided to get a pet. He went to the pet store, and the owner of the pet store sold him a talking millipede. An unusual pet, but he decided to give it a try. So he took the talking millipede home and put him in a box and poked holes in it, make sure his friend had a really nice place to stay. And when it came supper time, he said, well, I'm ready to go to supper. You want to go with me? Silence. Confused, he said, I'm ready to go to supper. Do you want to go with me? Silence. Finally, he got a little irate, partially at himself for being gullible enough to buy a talking millipede. But he got down to the box and said, I'm going to supper. You want to go with me? And this little voice from inside said, keep your shorts on. I'm trying to put my shoes on. Isn't it interesting the lengths to which some people will go for relationships? Relationships. We are built for relationships. God is built for relationships. And that's what we're going to talk about in this series. Actually, loneliness is the first problem in creation. You might think that sin was the first problem. That's the way we read that story most of the time. But think of it this way. Chapter 1 of Genesis, God is creating this and saying it's good. Creating that and saying it's good. Chapter 2 of Genesis, God says it is not good that what? That Adam should be alone. That's the first place we see that something is not good. That's the first problem in all of creation, is loneliness. Loneliness. And of course, sin doesn't come into the story until chapter 3. Loneliness is a story as old as time. It's a problem that's been with us from the beginning and will be with us forever. But we have lots of people around us. We have our relationship with God who can sustain us through this time of life. So this series is called With Jesus in the School of Relationships. And in it, I'm going to take the Beatitudes. I looked at all of Jesus' teachings about relationships and looked at the example he gave us, and I decided the Beatitudes provided a nice framework for us. And the Beatitudes are a wonderful general rule for life and the way we live, but I think we can apply them specifically to relationships and how we get along with each other. And I'm not talking specifically about any particular relationship. You can apply this to spouses, to children, to parents, to friends, to neighbors, to coworkers. You can even apply them to your pastor if you want to. It's a way that we can be in closer contact with each other, and we can take care of each other in a way that God intends us to care for one another. Now, in this series, I've been informed by the things that I hear you saying. I do a lot of listening. I hear you talk about how difficult your relationships are sometimes, whether it's with your parents or your children or your siblings or your neighbors, and I hear that, and I know how hard that is. I also am informed by the culture in which we live, in which relationships seem to be disintegrating around us. People have fewer and fewer friends these days than they used to, and we'll look at some statistics about that. And that just seems to be disintegrating along with the manners in our culture. And finally, I believe, the other foundation for this series is that I believe the relationship, the connection between God and us and between each other is the foundation for the kingdom of God. We are closest to the kingdom of God when we are in relationship with God and with each other. Connected, as our purpose says, connecting people to God. Now, you might not hear anything new in this series. It might all be old stuff. In fact, it's as old as the hills. But if you find something, just one thing, that reminds you, oh, I could do better at that. Oh, that's how I should treat that person. That's what I'm intending. I'm intending for us all to find something that we can improve in our relationships. And I know I can improve some things, and I suspect each of you can also. So let's go back just a minute and talk about God. God is a God of relationships. Why do I say that? Look at some of these stories. It's not good for Adam to be alone. We already talked about that. Then in chapter 3, God is walking in the garden in the evening, and his walking partners don't show up. Adam and Eve. And Eve's, well, where are you, Adam and Eve? Of course, they're hiding because of their sin. But it's that intimate relationship of walking with God. That is the image in the Old Testament for our connectedness with God. So we've got Enoch and Noah. The Bible says walk with God. Each of them, they say, walks with God. And in Micah, What do we see? We see that what does God require of us but to do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with our God. That image of walking side by side with God. That's how close that relationship is. If you want to hold hands, you can hold hands if you want to. But at least walking beside us each and every day of our lives. I can hardly imagine life without that kind of walk with God. Of course, in Jesus, God actually came and walked on the earth, and the disciples literally got to walk with God along the Sea of Galilee and along the Jordan River and in Jerusalem. They walked with God. And what a wonderful experience that must have been. And Jesus, why did he come? Why did Jesus come? He came to reconnect us with God. To reconnect us with God, because God wants more than anything to be in relationship with us. Paul says that God, when Jesus Christ was reconciling the world to himself, that means reconciling means bringing back together. Reconciling the world to himself, reconciling you and me to himself, and giving us the ministry or the message of reconciliation. So not only does God more than anything want to be in relationship with people, not only does God want more than anything to love people and to be loved back, but then God gives us the ministry of connecting with each other. Relationships are so important to God. That's what the Bible is all about. God's relationship with people and people's relationship with God. Then we're built for relationship. Remember, God in the very beginning, he created Adam. Why did he create Adam? Not because he needed him. But God could have tilled the soil with his finger. He didn't need Adam for anything. He wanted him. He wanted him because God is a God of relationship. And we're built for relationships then because God made Adam in his own image. He formed him in his own image. He formed him in the image of God, needing, wanting relationships. We're built for relationships too. We have the heart, the compassion, the love for relationships with each other. We have the faithful heart for a relationship with God. We are built to be in relationship. We need those relationships. But I'll be the first to admit, they're hard. Relationships are hard. First of all, because people are messy. Have you noticed that? I have. People are messy. Sometimes they're unpredictable. Sometimes they're unreliable. Sometimes they're selfish. Sometimes you just can't tell what they're going to do. And that's one thing that makes relationships really hard. The other thing that makes relationships hard is the complexity of those relationships. Let's look at the next slide. Group theory talks about, one more. There we go. Group theory talks about the number of relationships that have to be maintained in a group. So, you see, in a dyad with just two people in a relationship, there's only one relationship that has to be maintained. When you let's jump to like 5, a group of 5, that might be your lunch crowd or a family of 5. See how many relationships have to be maintained in that? 10 relationships. Because I have to maintain my relationship with those other 4 people, and this person has to maintain the relationships with 4 other people, and this person. 10 relationships are in play when we're talking about a family or a group of 5. When we get to a classroom of 29 students and a teacher, there are 435 relationships in play. Is it any wonder teachers come home exhausted, trying to manage 435 usually immature relationships? That's a lot of work. And if you think about a church of, say, 100 people, I just chose a round number, a church of 100 people, there's almost 5,000 relationships that have to be maintained. Relationships are complicated, and there are a lot of them, and they're a lot of work because people are unpredictable. But God is a God of relationship and made us so that we need relationship. We need each other. So what are we going to do? What could we possibly do? Well, some people have just given up. Some people have said, you know what? I don't need so many relationships. From 1984 to 2014, the number of friends that people had has gone down dramatically. It used to be 3 friends they could confide in, that you could take your personal problems to. 3 friends. Now, it's almost 0. A lot of people have no one they can confide in. The percentage of people with 3 or more friends in 1984 was 25%. Now it's 10%. And the number of people who have no one to confide in 1984, it was 12%. Now it's 25%. No one to confide in. No one to take your problems to. Imagine that. Maybe you're one of those people. And then, notice, 2014. That's almost 20 years old. Almost 10 years old. We're 9 years and a pandemic past those statistics. And we believe, I think we're right, that relationships took a beating during the pandemic. The numbers could only be worse now than they were in that survey. So what are we to do? Short of giving up, what are we to do since we need relationships? Let's look to the Beatitudes. When Jesus saw the crowds, he went up on a mountain, and after he sat down, the disciples came in and sat around him, and he began to speak, and he taught them. And that's the beginning of the Beatitudes. The very first Beatitude, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed is the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. My version of this for our sermon series is, blessed are you if you know that you need others, for you are close to the kingdom of God. I came to that partially by thinking about what does it mean to be poor in spirit? And I wasn't sure, so I thought about what would it mean to be rich in spirit? Well, the rich in spirit, like the rich young ruler that came to Jesus, they feel like they don't need anything. They can buy and sell whatever they need. They can buy and sell people if they want to. They don't need anything. It's those of us who are poor in spirit who recognize that we need other people, that we need these relationships, that we need to be connected with other people in a variety of ways. We all come as poor beggars, naked into the world, dependent completely on our parents and upon God. And we leave the world naked and completely dependent upon God for our eternal life. And in between, we desperately need these relationships. Parents, children, friends, co-workers, bosses, employees, pastors, fellow members. We need these kinds of relationships. We need people we can look up to, heroes that we can look up to and emulate. We need people who can depend on us, and we can depend on them. That's what we need. We never outgrow our need for relationships. We never outgrow our need for other people, just like we never outgrow our need for God. So blessed are you if you know that you need others, for you are close to the kingdom of God. So what do we do? What do we do? Here we are, made for people, needing people, and it's hard. Let me give you 3 clues, 3 pieces of homework this week. And we're going to have homework every week. Remember, we're in the school of relationships, so you're going to have homework. Your homework this week is to listen better. People have things to say. People have a lot of things to say, and you have 2 good ears. Well, many of you have 2 good ears. If you don't, you've got at least a hearing aid to help you with that. But listen. Listen more than you talk. Listen hear more than you are heard. Because the stories that they tell will enrich your life. The stories that they tell will help you to understand them better and will help you to make that relationship closer. Just listen. That's pretty easy, right? Find someone to listen to. Find someone to listen to. And I tell you, if blessed are you, if you know that you need people and you listen to their stories, because you will come close to the kingdom of God. Listen. The second thing, be vulnerable. Be vulnerable. Take your shell down. Take your armor off so that you can get close to each other. Let them know a little bit of who you are. Let them see who you really are inside. Even your weaknesses, even your problems. That's the reason that I talk about my challenges with mental health, because it creates connections, which develops relationships. By being vulnerable, we're able to connect with each other on a different level. The same will happen in your relationships too. If you're vulnerable with each other, if you let the other person in to see who you are inside, it makes all the difference in the world in your relationship. And you have to trust that people, when you're in this kind of relationship, are not going to judge you for who you are. That's been my experience, is that most of the time, with that kind of relationship, people love us and they don't judge us for who we are. And of course, the flip side of that is when they are vulnerable to us, we need to not judge them. So be vulnerable. Blessed are you if you know that you need others, and if you're really honest and vulnerable with them, because you will be close to the kingdom of God. And finally, make time. Make time for relationships. In a book entitled Friendship, they studied all the studies that have been done for the last 20 years on relationships. And you know what they found was the biggest problem, the biggest conflict in relationships? Time. Not spending enough time together. Not having time to see each other. Not giving each other time. Friendships need time. Marriages need time. Children need time. Our elderly need time. That's the most important gift we can give anybody, and we can never get it back. How important is that when someone gives you a gift they can never get back? That half hour that you spend visiting with them or listening to them. That is a true gift, and that builds relationships. So blessed are you if you know that you need others and you give them time, for you're close to the kingdom of God. Let me go over those again. Blessed are you if you know that you need others and you listen to their stories, for you'll be close to the kingdom of God. Blessed are you if you know that you need others and you're really honest and vulnerable with them, for you will be close to the kingdom of God. Blessed are you if you know that you need others and you give them your time. You'll be close to the kingdom of God. That's your homework for this week. Go, listen, be vulnerable, spend time. 3 very simple things. Just choose one person that you can do that with. See how it goes and come back next week. Amen. We have the honor today of bringing in the Clucky family as members. It seems like they're already members because they've been so active among us. It's just wonderful to have them as part of the congregation. Would you guys go ahead and come up? Bring the whole family. If you don't know them, you need to get to know them. We have Ashley and Matt, mom and dad. Mom and dad. And then we have Haley. She became a member last year. She is a full member of the church. You saw her on Wednesday nights. If you came to the Vesper services, she did a fabulous job helping us on Wednesday nights. And then there's Amelia. Amelia is in confirmation now. We're going to transfer her baptism in today from the CNE church, and then next week we're going to confirm her. I decided to give her 2 chances to be up front because she likes to be up front, don't you? Yeah, okay. So we've had a great year together. So that's Amelia, and she likes to be called Mia. Okay? And then we've got Mason. Mason, what grade are you in? About third grade? Second grade. Okay, second grade. If you don't know, I don't know, that's for sure. Okay? Second grade. And he's part of our children's programs and the Wednesday night programs, and we're glad to have you with us. It's fun to see you around at those times. And then we've got the twins. We've got Rhett and Easton, and I had to have that written down because I just couldn't remember their names. Rhett and Easton, and it's so good to have you around us and to be part of us also. So for the children, except for Haley, we're transferring their baptisms in, and of course we're transferring membership in for Matt. I have one question to ask you, and that is, as members of the body of Christ and of the United Methodist Church, will you support this congregation by your prayers, your presence, your gifts, your service, and your witness? The answer is, I will. Will you so answer? You guys can answer too. Go ahead and answer. You'll take those vows later on. But that's the question. That's the key question. And of course, we want to respond by saying we'll do that too. So, brothers and sisters, I commend to your love and care this whole family, whom today we receive into membership and in baptism in this congregation. Do all in your power to increase their faith, confirm their hope, and perfect them in love. Let's respond together. Members, we give thanks for all that God has already given you, and we welcome you in Christian love as members together with you in the body of Christ. And in this congregation of the United Methodist Church, we renew our covenant faithfully to participate in the ministries of the church by our prayers, our presence, our gifts, our service, and our witness, that in everything God may be glorified through Jesus Christ. You ought to be able to name all 5 of those, right, Mia? I hope so. Okay? Well, I'll give you a test next week. Okay? Very good. Welcome. It is so good to have you with us. Thank you very much. It's good having you. Crown him Lord of all. Crown him Lord of your life. Crown him Lord of the rest of the day as you go into the world doing his mission. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.